My guest today is Dr. Gad Saad. He's an evolutionary psychologist, professor of marketing at Concordia University, a podcaster, and an author. In today's fast-paced world, happiness and contentment often seem elusive. By taking an evolutionary lens on happiness, we can gain deeper insights into why we are the way we are and decode the contributing elements to living a good life. Expect to learn where happiness actually comes from, why evolution cursed humans with the ability to feel existential discontent, what people get wrong about defining and understanding happiness, what role genetics plays, how to pick the right partner, whether married people are more happy on average, why more sex doesn't equal more happiness, and much more.
When you are in the culture wars, by definition, you're in a war. A war on reason, on logic, on evidence-based thinking, on common sense, on reality. And so even though I may be a affable, happy person, just the sheer fact of that you have to take on these issues causes your cortisol levels to go up because you're constantly fighting against someone. Not physically, of course, but in terms of the ideological battle. So it's so refreshing to be able to talk not just about something that is, within the realm of psychology and well-being, but positive psychology, right? I'm not talking about OCD and about depression. I'm talking about arguably the topic that philosophers have most written about, which is how do we lead a good life?
Yeah, something maybe less contentious, but equally contested and equally confusing to many people trying to break down what happiness is. So your background is in evolution, which I've taken a massive interest in over the last couple of years. Why would it be the case, in your opinion, that evolution would curse humans with the ability to feel chronic, prolonged existential angst and dissatisfaction and unhappiness?
What a great question that gets my cerebral juices going. Look, so I'll answer this in a roundabout way. If you look at some of the dark side consumption acts that we succumb to, so to your point about succumbing to these things, so pornographic addiction, compulsive buying, eating disorders, excessive suntanning, pathological gambling. Why would we, if we are adaptive creatures, ever succumb to these behavioral traps? So what I argue in answering that question, which can then serve as an oblique answer to your question, is that oftentimes what happens with each of these phenomena is you take an adaptive mechanism that misfires, and it's that misfiring that then leads to the maladaptive behavior. So for example, when you look at compulsive buying, it's almost exclusively women who suffer from compulsive buying, about 90%. And they don't compulsively buy lawnmowers and digital cameras. They pathologically purchase beautification products. So what's happening there is you're taking an adaptive mechanism, which in this case is a sex-specific one. How do I ameliorate my lot in the mating market? And then it just consistently misfires, so it becomes maladaptive. So I think a similar kind of framework might explain the question that you're talking about.
Is happiness adaptive, in your experience, or in your view?
Well, so it's interesting that you asked this again, because there is a whole field. So there's a field called evolutionary medicine, which tries to incorporate evolutionary principles in the practice of medicine. And it may or may not surprise many of your viewers and listeners that very few physicians are trained in evolutionary thinking. They might know anatomy, they might know physiology, but they are stuck in what's called proximate world. They understand the how and the what of a mechanism.
But not the ultimate.
Not the ultimate. When you are in the culture wars, by definition, you're in a war. You're in a war. You're in a war. You're in a war. When you are in the culture wars, by definition, you're in a war. You're in a war. You're in a war. You're in a war. You're in a war.
Demons be gone!
Be gone, demons.
People come out of somewhere and say, this is the way that things are, here's a meme or a cool word or like a brand that makes it seem like a fucking legitimate academic topic. This is a thing and this is the way that it is. Deduces people. Shapiro's a perfect example of this. You know, whether you agree with the guy or not, he's fucking certain about all of it.
Yeah.
And you go, well, wow, like that sounds compelling.
He gives you the weapons for your feelings. That's why I look at Ben, right? It's like you're conservative, you don't know why, and then he's going to give you the best arguments as to why, right? You think abortion should be banned, Ben's going to tell you why it should be banned, and he will do it amazingly, succinct, perfect, data. He just gives you the weapons for when you get into an argument at a bar.
That's very
And
interesting.
I think there's a lot of people who tend to do that, but for me, they're not the most interesting. My loyalty is to funny.
That's the power of comedy. Whether you believe it or not, comedy is the vessel.
I think that you need to have a level of humility, like collaboration as well, as opposed to this very adversarial sort of zero-sum type scenario. I went to Miami for the first time ever, 3 weeks ago.
Yep.
And a lot of what I was seeing online in men's advice made a lot more sense after I'd been to Miami. Miami unlocked the back of my brain in terms of going, oh, your wealth is your primary source of value to the world. Who you are, the person that you're with, the table that you're on, the size of the bottle, the girls that are on your arm. Who you are, the person that you're with, the table that you're on, the size of the bottle, the girls that are on your arm. Girls out in party dresses, maxi party dresses at 12 midday, going for coffee in heels. Like, where the fuck are you going?
Yeah.
What is this? And that to me made a lot of sense, because it seems like a good chunk of Miami culture, very transactional, very transient, very resource-based, has informed a lot of men's advice on the internet. And because of that, they're reverse engineering, Miami is how all women are. No, it's fucking not. No.
Just to not be involved in the rat race at my age is great. I had a great time partying. I'm glad I got it all out of my system. I don't have the FOMO that a lot of guys do. A lot of guys get hitched young, and then they have to deal with their whole life. What would it be like? At this point, there's nothing that I'm like, I wish that I did that before I got married. So I just get to focus on developing this relationship.
That wonderful moment, just like Julian. I'm sober enough to know what I'm doing, and I'm drunk enough to really enjoy doing it.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. My guest today is Dr. Andrew Huberman. He's a neuroscientist, associate professor at the Stanford University School of Medicine, and a podcaster. This episode is so good. I absolutely love Dr. Huberman's work. The guy is the biggest health and fitness podcaster on the planet, and with good reason. He's made every bro biohacker look very silly over the last couple of years by using science and evidence to work out exactly what we actually need to do to improve our outcomes, our longevity, our health, literally everything. I really appreciate all of the work that he puts in, and there is so much to take away from today. But now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Andrew Huberman. Coming back to the discussion about alcohol, which is one that you tried to interject with Bert on, I think your episode that you released last year, back end of last summer, I think that really opened a lot of people's eyes to some of the risks of alcohol. I've been kind of flying the flag of it as a tool for productivity. But yeah, I'm seeing right now a huge pushback against unseen, unintentional drinking. And I think that, your episode last year opened a lot of people's eyes to it.
Again, I don't tell people what to do. I give them the facts and so they can make the best decisions for them. I mean, it's very clear that unless you're an alcoholic and provided you're an adult, that 2 drinks per week maximum is about the upper threshold. I've never been a big drinker. I don't drink. I'm lucky that it's not something that's a strong draw for me.
Me too.
I have friends that are recovered alcoholics, and their lives are so much better as a function of being sober. But for non-alcoholics, I think everyone should just know the health risks. And what was interesting to me about the response to that episode is that I think many people took it. The impression I got was that many people took it as permission to finally stop drinking or drink less because they didn't enjoy drinking. And as you so beautifully put out on social media, drinking is one of the few activities that if you don't partake, people assume or accuse you of having a problem. And it's just wild. Why would that be? Once, actually, I was out to dinner with a colleague years ago, and I declined drinking that evening. I was just talking to the visiting speaker, and she said, "God, that's so boring." And well, first of all, I don't have a problem saying what's on my mind without alcohol, right? I don't have a excessive GABAergic inhibition, so I'll say what I want to say, as best I can. But I think drinkers don't like people who don't drink because it takes the fun out of it for them. Because there's this idea that's prolific on college campuses, like if everyone's drunk, that somehow like the entire vibe of the party is going to take on a new flavor. And frankly, I remember I went to a college, UC Santa Barbara, where at the time people drank a ton. It discovered alcoholics, right? And I used to go to parties sometimes. I'd look around, I'm thinking like, everyone here is just blasted. Like if anything happened.
Were you drinking? Did you drink in college?
Yeah, I drank in college, but not that often. I had a habit, and I don't recommend this, I had a habit of going out about once a month, and I would tie one on.
Which is fucking wasted.
My tolerance to alcohol was always such that I would get drunk quickly and then sober up really fast. So I was drinking late into the night, but then I'd sober up really fast. Alcohol to me never felt good. I never liked it. To me, it just feels like there's so many better ways to have a good time that alcohol isn't necessary. But I do understand that it's a big part of many cultures, and I do understand that for many people, it's so part and parcel with relaxing and with festivities and with feeling comfortable and with drawing a boundary between the normal day and the rest of the day.
That's interesting. There's a ritualistic aspect to it.
Yeah, there's this sort of, it divides the day in an interesting way. So I'm not judgmental of it. But for me, I'll go to a party where people are drinking and just hang out. I'm perfectly good.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. My guest today is Eric Angner. He's a professor of philosophy at King's College London, a researcher, and an author. So he manages to blend two murky worlds into a very usable approach. Expect to learn why economists get such a bad rap, how to maximize your happiness from an economic perspective, how to break your addiction to material possessions, and much more.
So many people think of economics in terms of like stock markets, housing markets, inflation rates. And that is part of economics. That is some of the things that economists study. But economics is so much broader than that. It's about anything and everything connected to human well-being. Any choice that you make that has any implications for the way you live your life and the way things turn out. So that means you can do economics and study crime, child rearing, climate change, family formation, whatever you like, there's likely to be an economic angle to it. And in fact, if you think about like the big problems, like whichever problem you're thinking about, I bet there's an economic angle to that as well, right? There's going to be some economic implications, there's some economic perspective, and in many cases, some economic tool that you can use to address it. What I'm thinking about primarily is a way of looking at human decisions. And basically everything is a result of human decisions, right? Everything's social. And even if it isn't, the solution to whatever problem you're thinking about is gonna involve human behavior.
And when economists think about that, what they think about is the various values that are at stake. Oftentimes we have to make choices, right? Because there's a limited amount of whatever we care about. And what that means is that we have to strike a balance between the different things. We have to give up a little bit of this in order to get a little bit of that. Now, some people out there want everything always at once, right? That's childish.
Once you see that the world isn't designed like that, you gotta think about the ways in which things come at a cost. And that's the core of what economics has to offer, a way of looking at decisions that brings to the fore the values that are at stake, the costs involved, but also the benefits that you can get from making the best available decision. People have been doing happiness research for literally 100 years, and there's never been any doubt about the fact that more money makes at least some people happier.
So if you look at poor people at the bottom end of the income scale, everyone has found that giving them more money on the average
will make them happier. The conversation, the scholarly conversation that's been going on for some time has to do with what happens on the other side of the income distribution. So if you look at the very rich, does the curve become flat, meaning there's no additional benefit from making more money after a certain point, or does it continue to rise? And right now, it seems like a consensus is emerging, which says that happiness increases at every level of income. But it increases less and less the more money you make. So economists talk about diminishing marginal returns, right? And that's what we seem to find in the happiness data. Now, it matters what you have to give up in order to get that additional chunk of cash. It's not always going to be the case that you should try to make more money if you want to be happier, because you might have to sacrifice leisure, right? Golfing, time with friends, time with family, time with your kids, things like that. So you shouldn't sort of infer that you should always try to maximize your income. There's a point at which you would be better off not. But all things equal, getting more money seems to be making you happier no matter where you are in the distribution.
But equally contested and equally confusing to many people trying to break down what happiness is. So your background is in evolution, which I've taken a massive interest in over the last couple of years. Why would it be the case, in your opinion, that evolution would first humans with the ability to feel chronic, prolonged existential angst in dissatisfaction and unhappiness?
What a great question that gets my cerebral juices going. Look, so I'll answer this in a roundabout way.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the show. My guest today is me, is me. To celebrate 700 episodes of Modern Wisdom, I broke down some of my favorite lessons, insights, and quotes. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the wise and very wonderful me. The wise, me. Wise, very wonderful, me.
So, decisions are as much about the sort of person that you will tell yourself that you are for having made the decision as the actual impact of the decision itself. And
what would you tomorrow want you today to do?
Pretty bulletproof, but difficult, right? Very difficult to do because it gives you pretty much nowhere to hide. There's essentially nowhere to hide at all. And when you do make bad decisions, it's on you. It's on you. It's on you.
When you do make bad decisions,
it's on you. Anyway, fear and ego are keeping your hand on the tiller. Release the tiller for whatever reason, and the steering takes care of itself. So, if you think about what life would be like if you didn't grip the tiller so hard. The tiller is the handle attached to the rudder on a boat. It's the thing that steers it. And just thinking about, life is chaotic and there is a swell or a storm coming, and you grip on harder. You try to wrangle control of your life more by applying more effort and pressure and cognitive horsepower. And it relates to something, probably my favorite ever video from Aubrey Marcus. So he stood on stage at the announcement of his New York Times best-selling book party, and he says,
I spent so much of my life terrified of what I was going to become and whether I was going to be right here, right now. God.
How much time did I waste afraid I wasn't going to be right here, right now? Afraid I wasn't going to be right here, right now. If I could change, the only thing I'd change about my whole life would be fearing less that I wouldn't get right here, the place I was going anyway. I wouldn't change all the mistakes and mishaps. I needed those. But all the constant worry that I wasn't going to make it, that took me out of the moment, it took me out of enjoying these experiences or smiling or eating my lunch or whatever I was doing. Know your mission. Have faith you're going to get there. Wherever you go, it's going to be all right. Just find ways to get out of your head. If you imagine that the outcomes in your life are predetermined, right? Imagine that where you're going to end up, the achievement of your goals, the attainment of your pursuits are predestined, and you're going there no matter how much you fear or worry. Now, you still need to do the work. You still need to do the things, but you don't need to fear about completing the work or worry about whether you'll do the things. The things you need to do will get done, and the ones that you don't, won't. How differently would you experience life? You'd be able to just be, right? In the world, but not of the world. Doing the things, but not afraid of the things. According to Jed, he says, you observe events, and you allow the flow of things to do the steering, and you go where you go. And I really think that there is something to this. Release the tiller is a mantra that I should tattoo on the inside of my eyelids. And it's good to be reminded of when we find ourselves gripping too hard to fears or expectations, because why fear about whether you're going to go to the place that you were going all along? And it's a delicate balance between agency, which is one of the words that I use the most on this podcast, trying to internalize that locus of control. You are able to make changes to your life. You are able to lean in, etc., etc. But
there is also a degree of anxiety and concern and rumination and obsession and neuroticism, which is no longer helpful. It's not a part of you taking control. It's outside of you taking control and you faking or you confusing what you think for how you impact the world. That to me is a really nice reframe, at least the Tiller.
Know your mission. Have faith you're going to get there. Wherever you go, it's going to be all right. Just find ways to get out of your head.
May the wind always be in your back and the sun upon your face. And may the winds of destiny carry you aloft to dance with the stars. Cheers, Georgie.
Let's break the fourth wall about some content creation stuff. Right, like when you start doing any content, the accepted wisdom is you should niche down super hard, capture an audience, get the 1,000 true fans, and then you can broaden out from there, because it's way easier to penetrate into a very small cohort or a narrow cohort than it is to penetrate across multiple cohorts all at once. There's some obsessive CrossFit people out there, but even the most obsessive CrossFit person is also into 70s jazz, you know, and rom-coms, and loves to play pickleball, like, you know, there's cooking, bakery, whatever. Everyone is this Frankenstein's monster of idiosyncratic limbs that's kind of been attached to a torso. And by niching down super hard, what it does is get you known very, very well for one thing, but in future that can often become your kind of like an Achilles heel, but it's almost a restrictive label. Restrictive label. Restrictive label. Restrictive label.
Restrictive label.
If you are not engaged with the stuff that you are producing online, sort of things that you're talking about, the kind of stories that you're sharing on your Instagram, etc., just stop. Like, don't do it. Just make stuff and share stuff that you like, not that you think people will like. Because ultimately, if you're only doing what you think people will like, you become a puppet and you outsource your sense of self-worth and all of the content creation to the crowd. You know, these episodes, I don't know, it's an hour and 10 minutes or something, me waffling on about bro philosophy horse shit that I've like pulled out of the last 9 months of life in the hopes that something's interesting. But it's what I would have wanted 10 years ago. Like, this entire show is what I wished that I had when I was 25 and starting to realize there's probably more to the world than just getting drunk and partying.
Oh. Demons be gone.
Be gone, demons.